Containers 101. Talk to me like I'm 5. I understand what VMs are. I understand what VMware is. I understand what servers and operating systems and applications are. But this container thing, I don't get that. What is that?
Yeah, I think container is a sort of a new technology. It's been out there for a while. It's called the Linux containers. People have used it in Solaris and even in other cases. Yeah. But really, recently, the last 2-3 years, essentially, it really took off. And the people are seeing advantages of it now more so than before. So essentially, containers are, you have virtual machines running in a bare metal. Through a hypervisor, of course. Mm-hmm. So you can get maybe 20, 30 virtual machine in a single bare metal server.
Right.
Think of it as, that gives you obviously 20x, 30x improvement over a single physical server that used to be before. Now think of it as another 10x, 20x, 30x improvement over that.
Okay.
So essentially, containers are, VMs actually run their own operating system. So essentially it virtualizes the physical hardware. And so from an end user perspective, it looks like I'm running my own Windows or I'm running my own Linux, whatever it is. Uh-huh. So, but it is essentially recreating the whole stack, the full operating system.
Right.
The containers are essentially taking advantage of, I don't really necessarily have to repeat the operating system every time because my services that I'm actually running is only a small portion of that overall stack. So I don't necessarily have to run my operating system multiple times. Let's say I could be a DHCP service or a Tomcat service. Uh-huh. I don't really need to run my whole full operating system. So essentially, these are called the microservices. So you're able to share the same operating system for many of these containers. So you can imagine, you can get 100x containers in a single operating system or single VM for that matter. The benefit is obviously also speed. The VMs takes few seconds or even a minute to boot up. Containers takes like milliseconds to boot up. So from a user perspective, it gets them the scale. Mm-hmm. It gets them the fastness that they want. Mm-hmm. And also the biggest advantage of containers is that developers, as they write their code, they write their binary code, and they want to do their build and test and production. Today with the VM, they struggle with the speed of delivery of that. They develop their software in their laptop that has a certain dependencies, certain files that they're used to. But when they try to run the same binary their code in a build or production, it doesn't work because the dependencies are different, whatnot. So people spend a lot of time making that work. With containers, the developers can create the container which all their files, binaries, dependency built into it. And then that same container can run in build, and then they can be, once it passes the test, it can be sent to production. Mm-hmm. That's huge from a development process perspective.
So, you saw the matrix, right?
Yeah.
To me, this is, and I've often used the matrix to talk about VMware and the concept of VM and a lot of applications. In my world, backup is the thing, right? And that backup, in order to be freed and to fully leverage the VMware infrastructure, it's got to know that it's running in a VM, right? So you've got to use the VACB and things like that. And it sounds like this is application. Basically, it's an application that is made in such a way that it's actually taking advantage of the fact that it knows that this is actually a VM, whereas every other application is running in VMs, they think they're actually running in a real machine, right?
Yeah, I think from a container perspective, they feel like they are running in their own little container, or VM themselves. If you want to call them VM, that's fine. But the thing is, what you're saying is you're avoiding the wastage of those extra froth of every other container or every other workload wanting that extra OS underneath.
Do these applications have to be coded in such a way that they actually know they're a container, or
no.
They think they're running on Linux?
Exactly. They're running it on, obviously if you're an Ubuntu-based container, then you will need obviously the Ubuntu to run underneath it. But I'm assuming it's an Ubuntu-based container.
Gotcha.
So I think it's a lot of advantages. One big thing that I see is that you are there in VM world, they're showing you vMotion across cloud.
Yeah.
That's a big file.
Yeah.
I used to do long distance vMotion. I was one of the first guy, along with VMware and EMC, we announced long distance vMotion in VMworld 2009, right, where we moved a VM across 200 kilometers. Right now, obviously, they're talking about moving a VM from your private data center to a vCloud Air. But then that's a big file, right? I think when you with the containers, you don't have to move the overall operating system. The VM is essentially, I'm taking my operating system and moving it over 100 times. I have 100 VMs, I'm moving operating system 100 times. Why?
Why, yeah.
All you're doing, the logic is probably small. The uniqueness of your application is probably small. By containerizing the application in that fashion, you can move just a container. So you can run on any Ubuntu or Red Hat software in your cloud provider. All you're doing is moving is this intelligent piece. So in a way, that makes the portability of applications to cloud, or any provider. Because if you look at EC2, they provide now container services, and now every vendor is going to, every provider, so cloud provider is going to provide that, and so that allows you to move this stuff faster, quicker, and you can hopefully save a lot of money too, because you're not buying the whole compute. You're not buying a whole CPU. You can run a VM, and then inside the VM you can have 100 containers for all I care. So that's huge.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Balaji, really long last name, from Cisco. Some basic information on containers and what they are and why they are and how they are. Make sure to check out our other videos on TrueBit TV and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. And thanks for watching.